Hi, and welcome to From First Kiss to Wedded Bliss. I'm your host, Marcy Sullivan. And today joining me are Philip and Priscilla Fretwell. They are the creators of Savage Marriage Ministries, which is a ministry providing coaching, encouragement, and education to individuals and couples recovering from the trauma of sexual immorality, wounds, and betrayal. And also the authors of the book by the same name, Savage Marriage. Very good book. Welcome, Philip and Priscilla. Thank you.
Always glad to share.
Great. Well, I think we ought to just get right going. I know I had something in common with you, Priscilla, in that we're both homeschool moms.
Okay, great.
Yes. And I think I would have been just as shocked as you were to find out about my husband's double life, right? But we're both active in church. Husbands are leading in ministry. And to not give away too much of the story, but basically, Phil, you were living a double life, right? You were one way to the public, and in private, you were viewing pornography and then having affairs as well, right?
Yeah, it was. I was not having emotional affairs. What had happened in my life is what started with pornography and masturbation as a kid turned into massage parlors as an adult. And Priscilla really didn't know what was going on with me. I was a leader in the church. We homeschooled our kids. We really looked perfect. And I was very afraid to share any of this with her, or just about anybody besides her either. So I really lived a life of secrecy. And 28 years into our marriage, I came to her and said, I just could not live like this any longer. And I shared everything that had been happening in my life. And it was quite a shocker.
I can imagine. And I know, I love the fact that in the book, you tell what your experience of the story was, and then Priscilla shares her side of how things were. And that's just beautiful. It makes it so easy to read and also to relate to each of you as individuals. I was thinking that one of the quotes you have here, it's the problem isn't your thinking, it's your doing. And this was in regards to accountability partners, because I know that you said in your journey, you had accountability partners. You even had a counselor at one point. And why is it not enough to have the apps or the counselors? Why is that not enough?
Well, so that whole thing around accountability for me, it really started boiling down to me managing how much I was going to disclose. And all these people, the Bible didn't say to go to your buddy. He says, go to the one who offends you. If you're bringing your offering and you know that you've offended somebody, you go to the person you've offended. So this whole framework of what I have been living with, of trying to go to my buddies and leaking out some marginal confessions to them, it really wasn't effective for me. And they were very easy on me because they weren't offended at all. In fact, many of them were struggling with the same thing. So they gave me a pass very easily. But when I came to you, that was a lot different, right?
Yeah, I'm the one that was hurt. I'm the one that really got all the all the crap was on me, right? Because what he did didn't affect any of those guys, did not affect his counselor, didn't affect anybody. It was more like, oh, I'm so sorry, Phil. I'll pray for you some more. But when I heard, oh, that was a different story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because see, I never really understood what was happening inside of me. Guys go through this thing. If my wife doesn't know, it's probably okay. It won't hurt her. In fact, many of these groups do not encourage you to disclose to your wives.
The one that you are one with. Emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
And they'll say things that make sense, like, Phil, why are you going to dump all of this on her and make her shoulder your burden, right?
Yeah, she's too weak to hear this.
So they gave me a pass card that I eagerly took. You're right. I shouldn't tell her. I should live this life of, hiding and everything because I don't want to hurt her. So it comes down to this idea that the disclosure is what will hurt her. But see, that's not the issue. The sin hurts her.
Mm-hmm.
But they get into this thing of if you disclose what you've done, that's going to really destroy her. No, doing what you did is what destroys her.
Mm-hmm.
There's already destruction in the relationship.
Yeah, and
Yes.
even when women don't know explicitly know, because
I did not know, and I was my life that I was living was under a lot of fear, a lot of anger, and bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a lot of stuff going on with me, and
Mm-hmm.
he hadn't told me anything. But there is something here that God has placed that what he's doing is going to be reflected on me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so for a person, for a man or a woman to say, "Oh, it does not affect them," they're being deceived.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, when I was reading the book, the song, I believe it's originally by Charlie Peacock, I want to be in the light as you are in the light.
Mhm.
And that is your story, coming into
Yeah,
the light. I
yeah,
know that they say anything that's in the dark has power over you.
yeah.
Hmm.
Did you find that to be true?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And First John, it says that if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we'll have fellowship with one another. It's a promise, right?
Yes.
And we have that deep koinonia type intimacy, but it only comes when you walk in the light, and it has
Mm.
to. And in the light, everything is exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're just coexisting with one another.
Right. That is so true. And I have a question though. What if your spouse is the one that says, I don't want to know? Because the
Mhm.
Bible tells me to think on whatever is true and lovely and right and admirable and worthy of praise. And I don't want to know about what happened before we were together. You know, maybe nothing is going on now, but they don't want to know the past. What would you say to that spouse?
Well, so you're saying, let me see if I understand this, Marcy. You're
Mm-hmm.
saying that somebody does not want to know your backstory,
Right?
right? Everything that happened in my past, not necessarily in our marriage, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever happened to you back there, I don't want to know.
Right.
Well, I think that there isn't a knowing of each other.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know your spouse because all those things that happen in the past are affecting you today.
Mm-hmm.
You can live in denial and say, no, it doesn't affect me. It does. Your past comes back to bite you in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we say many times that we look at the present through the lens of the past.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, these wounds that have happened in our past, they affect us today. Because
Right.
what we see is that there's kind of like a chain of command here. You start with a wound. It creates now a lie that you believe in the present.
Mm-hmm.
See, what happened to me in the past can be something that happened to me, it affect me today. So that's the lie, right? The
Mhm.
lie leads to a fear. Now I'm afraid it's going to happen. And see, when you have fear, you either go towards faith or control.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us go toward control. So what we wind up with when we see marriages where one spouse or sometimes both spouses are very over controlled, over controlling, why is he always like that? Why does she never want to do that? You know, things like that. We always have to back up and say, where's the fear?
Mm-hmm.
Then where's the lie? And then where is the wound? And it's impossible to explore these things without going backwards. Now we can live in denial and we
Right.
can have a marriage, we can go on vacations and we can have kids and we can have a house, but we cannot have intimacy without knowing one another.
That is really good. And I think on the part of the spouse who doesn't feel that they are free to share, like you didn't at first, I think, Phil, you have that wondering, would they still love me if they knew?
Right.
Mhm.
It's the big question that's out there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the one thing that probably keeps us bundled up in secrecy is if she really knows me, will she love me?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I have a fear of not being loved. I really do. And you can trace it all the way back to my parents' divorce when I was 10 and my dad remarrying 3 days later. And there's lots of things,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But those aren't excuses for me. It just explains it a little bit for me. that why do I have this fear of not being loved? Well, there was a time in my life as a little kid where that was a big question for me. What happened to my dad? Why
Mm-hmm.
did he decide to move to another state and be with another family? And so now you get to be an adult and you realize that you're living with this fear of not being loved. And so in that situation, it's very hard to be transparent with somebody. I mean, out of all the people, Marcy, who I want to love and accept me, Priscilla's the number one on the list, right?
Right.
And so for me to come out and tell her things that put that in jeopardy,
Mm.
that's a tough place to go.
Yeah. I think it all starts, the root of it too, is when we're dating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We show our pretty side, our pretty penny, how
Mm-hmm.
shiny it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't ever look on the other side that's kind of dirty and rusty.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like to have awkward, painful conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically, and this would be where we were for 28 years, not having conversations, not pressing in to find out who are you?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to you? What brought you pain in your life? We don't want to talk about those things. And so it's almost like living in denial. We'll just kind of live in show our pretty side and pretend everything is great and not know each other.
Yes. Yes. It sounds like a very surface level
Yeah.
It is.
relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, we encourage young couples, especially the ones that are just getting married. You're supposed to have these tough conversations prior to getting married, not after.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. When it comes out afterward,
Mm-hmm.
which is what happened with us, the spouse that didn't know can feel like they were bamboozled into the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You did not give me the option to choose.
Right.
I married you under false pretenses,
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, and I didn't know. You should have told me.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have certainly been true for me. I
Yeah.
should have told. But I will tell you, Marcy, this thing about, one spouse doesn't want to know. And I can't tell you this is the situation in 100% of those situations, but in some of those situations, when one spouse jumps up and says, I need to be transparent about my life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we have to understand everybody has got some level of shame in their life about something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when one spouse stands up and say, I can't live with myself anymore, and I want to tell you what I did or what happened to me. So the other spouse is listening to that
Mm-hmm.
with their own shame in the background. And it's not uncommon for the other spouse then to say, I'm okay with that. I don't need to know. And what they're really saying is, I don't want to share mine.
Yes.
You are pushing too hard in this transparency area. And I'd rather us just both be okay. It's kind of like what's in the past is in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not talk about it. Yet we both live with these wounds, with these lies, with these fears, and this controlling nature to protect myself.
Mm. And yet we say we're protecting the other person.
Right. We're really protecting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. And I love how your story illustrates that very well, that every time you were bold enough, courageous enough to share, to confess your sins, whether it was to Priscilla, to your kids, that it opened up that communication, that vulnerability with the other person to feel comfortable enough to share with you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We see that a lot. And like when we coach couples, if they don't know us or they haven't read our book or somebody's told them to call us, we always ask, do you know our story? And if they don't, we probably take 5 or 10 minutes and we just unpack it really fast because we want to put them at a place where they have permission to share. And when we unpack our own shame and just very straightforward, and we show them we do not live in shame for what happened. Because we've learned that 1 Corinthians 10:13 says that every temptation that's taken you over is common. And that is true. It's all common, and we've seen it and heard a lot of it. So we just don't live and walk in shame. Jesus took it all.
Yes.
And so when other people see that, they slowly get enough courage to say, well, let me tell you what happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is really good. Let's have you explain what it means to be hot.
Oh.
And it's not what people usually think.
Yeah. So that is a term we have in the book, and it stands for honest, open, and transparent. And so honesty is when I might ask a question of, or Priscilla ask a question of me, let's say, and I give her an honest response, but almost like a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Narrow, exactly what she said. Like
Mm-hmm.
if the kid says, what was the example you have about the cookie jar?
Yeah. Mom asked, did you eat the
Did
cookie?
you eat a cookie out of the cookie jar? And the kid ate a cookie out of the pantry.
Oh,
I didn't
The
eat
egg
a
cookie.
cookie, right? No, I did not eat a cookie out of the cookie jar,
That's
right?
honest.
That's honesty. Okay. So what about openness? Okay.
mm-hmm.
Now, openness takes into account that maybe they asked the wrong question, and let's see what they need to get to. So you say, Mom, no, I didn't eat a cookie out of the cookie jar, but I have to be honest, I ate 4 cookies out of the pantry because I know that's really what you were asking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, that's openness. So
Mm-hmm.
what is transparency then? Because that's really where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency is, hey, Mom, I know you didn't ask, but I just want to tell you I ate 4 cookies out of the pantry today, and I knew that it was kind of an issue for you, and I just felt like I should own up to that. See, transparency is when you tell somebody what they should know without them asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
And see, if we don't get to that place, what that means is the disclosures in our relationship will always be based on how good the questioner is.
Yeah.
And so, in other words, me coming clean is up to Priscilla.
Mm-hmm.
Is up to her asking the questions or discovering something.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's not the way it should be. It should be that, hey, my actions affect Priscilla,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to be willing to share with her things that are important for her to know about me. Because, the Bible says that my body belongs to her.
Mm-hmm.
She has authority over it, and her body belongs to me. I have authority over that. So if I'm using my body that she has authority over in an inappropriate way, then she has a right to know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. And it's the same way
That's the
around.
first thing.
And so we started really operating like that. And that's the acronym HOT.
I love it. How does that work out in every day? Do you have a check-in once a week that you say, hey, here's the things I need to be open, honest, and transparent with you about? Is it a daily thing? Is it when you notice it? How does it work for you guys now?
Yeah.
Well, most of the time it's a daily thing or when it occurs. Have been there's been times like, okay, for some reason, whenever Phil goes to the grocery store, there are always scandalous people. Okay. He goes into Publix and it's like, why do these women dress this way? Right. But then he'll come home. He goes, I saw this, that, and the other. I just want you to know that crossed my mind.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, I
Thank
guess
you.
the only way around the scandalous dressing is you got to move out of Florida, maybe Alaska or somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
But it's an ongoing thing. If it's on his mind, it crossed his mind. I just want to get rid of it.
Mm.
And so he comes and he says something to me. Another one that we do is we send a text message praying hands, which is a signal that something's happening. I want to talk about it when I get home.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times he will do that. And when he gets home, I say, so what was the praying hands about?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's helped me, and and it's not like I'm doing every little thing, every woman that walks across it. It's if it sticks in my mind
Mm-hmm.
and I find it coming back to my mind, and that's a message for me that it's something just to share. And but it's allowed us to have not just transparency here, but also within our family. I mean, the other night I took my youngest daughter out to dinner. Priscilla was gone for a weekend, I think, and we went out to a restaurant. And she's sitting right in front of me like this, and two young women come in, and they sit kind of right behind her, and they are dressed for like the club, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I'm looking at Becca's face here, and right over her shoulder are these two women. So they sit down, and I just think, this is going to be a tough night for me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to talk to Becca, and 2 inches to the left are these two girls. And so I said, Becca, I said, hey, would you mind just switching places with me? And she looked back over her shoulder like that, and she turned around, she goes, oh, yeah, Dad, no problem. And so she gets up and we switch places, and she sits down and I sit down, and she looks over at me and she goes, hey, I respect that. And see, that's what it has generated in our family.
Mm-hmm.
And see, it's also created for Becca that one day she meets a guy, and she's going to expect them to be transparent on stuff like this and not
Mm-hmm.
hide it. And so it's been just a new way of operating. And I would say at the beginning, so I came clean 9 years ago with Priscilla, and at first I was sending her a lot of praying hands, and I mean this you drive by massage parlors in Orlando, they're all over the place, and it would get on my mind, and I'd have to send her praying hands, and it's not so much like that anymore. It's not overwhelming my mind or my emotion, but it's kind of every once in a while, and that something might happen.
I was wondering how you would counsel someone to begin this revelation, as you did with Priscilla 9 years ago.
Hmm.
What would you tell someone who feels like, okay, I'm ready to be hot with my spouse?
Yeah.
What's your advice?
Well, we all so depending on what they're talking about and what they're disclosing, right? So sometimes we will counsel a guy or a woman to get a little bit of a counsel with somebody else and practice being hot with somebody else. Because if you can't do it with somebody else, you'll never do it with your spouse well,
Mm.
right? And so before I came and shared with Priscilla, in our book, I go through this, but I had rolled this out with a couple of guys. They gave me just a little bit of coaching on how to get through this and what to share and how to share it,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. But the basics that they told me, and what we'll share with people is, first of all, you can't share this like you're reading the newspaper. This is not an information event.
Mm.
This is a revealing of something that's going to have a tremendous impact on your spouse and on you.
There should be repentance
Mm-hmm.
in the disclosure.
Yeah, guys are always worried about the wives walking away from them. And so what we tell them is that we've not seen many women walk away from men who are truly broken and contrite.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible has a lot of verses about being broken and contrite. A broken and contrite spirit you will not despise, and so a brokenness is, I give up.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I can do to fix myself any longer. I am completely done.
Mm-hmm.
Contriteness means, and I'm willing to do, God, anything you want me to do. Anything. Absolutely hold nothing back. And so when men or women are like that,
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance that there's a sliver of compassion or understanding that comes out from a wife. And I saw a sliver from you.
Mm-hmm.
It was a small sliver, but it was a little one, right?
It was there.
It was there. And but that's what we'll tell them is this is not about you informing your spouse. This is about you letting your spouse know you are broken and contrite over what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so that if you're not ready to be broken and contrite, you're probably not ready to confess.
Mm-hmm.
And but so there has to be a brokenness and a contriteness that comes out. And then the other thing is, don't minimize what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see this all the time. So, some guys committed adultery 60 times and he'll say 59. there's just something that we don't want to say it right till the end. We want
Mm-hmm.
to just somehow make ourselves look a little bit better than we really are.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll say, you can't do that. And then you have to be prepared to share details as much as your wife wants to know.
Mm-hmm.
She has authority over my body. If I used it inappropriately, she has a right to know whatever she wants to know in as much detail as she wants to know. And that's a big debatable thing. Well, details just hurt her. But for you, if you found, if I didn't, what would happen if I didn't share
Yeah,
details?
I mean, if the details aren't shared, and what happened to me is I made up a reel in my head
Mm-hmm.
until I asked the question and said, "What happened with that?" And
Okay.
then he would explain, and that whole reel in my head would disappear. But it
Mm-hmm.
would go, the reel in my head would go to the worst possible place.
Mm.
I
Right.
have a great imagination here.
Yes. So the transparency in that case is dependent upon what she asks. I mean, you've already revealed that this happened, but you
Mhm.
don't know how much she wants to know. So you leave that up to her as far as how.
Yeah. I introduced it to her, here's what happened. But boy, she jumped into that. I mean,
Mm,
she wanted to know who like at these massage parlors, who were they, what they look like, what they wear, what I wear, where were my hands, where were their hands, and all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Did you go back to the same one? You
mm,
know,
mm-hmm.
I mean, just things like how much were you tipping? I want to know. I mean, it's stuff like that. I wanted to know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's whatever question comes into a person's mind that they should be able to ask and get an answer.
If you don't, you put your life in this place of being a prisoner to the unknown, and it's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And we tell the guys that if she wants to ask the same question 1,000 times, you have to answer the same question 1,000 times. There's something else that she's trying to get at, and you can't push back. You can't say,
I already answered
I
that.
already answered that. No, you have to be willing to share this stuff.
Mm,
And it really is the place where humility has to come in and take control of your life. The
mm,
pride
mm-hmm.
here in these discussions will absolutely cause them to go haywire. It really will. There has to be 100% humility and
Mm-hmm.
saying, God, where do you want me to be in this? And that I want to honor you and I want to honor my wife, recognizing I've done some really awful, reprehensible things.
That is really good. I was thinking about one thing for you, Priscilla, in particular. I've heard stories of men who've also had pornography issues, and they've been very open with their spouses. I don't know how honest and transparent, but they've told them things. There seems to be where the wife is acting very motherly and very controlling, like you were saying, fear, control. So how do you keep that from happening in a relationship? I guess it's partly that the trust has been broken and maybe that's the fear that needs to control. But how do you keep from acting like his mom when he comes to you and tells you things, or even when you're asking questions? What would you say about that?
Hmm. Well, I haven't experienced wanting to be somebody's mom.
Well, you did turn me over to God and say,
Well,
you're
that's true. I did. I mean, I had to come to a place that I said, "You're not my problem, Phil. I am not going to be Holy Ghost,
Mm-hmm.
play that part, and I'm not going to be like your warden that I need to know. You
Mm-hmm.
are God's problem, and He's going to deal with you."
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was liberty of
Mhm.
being able to say, you know, God deal with him.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I will say, Marcy, we've seen kind of a version of that, of what you're describing with
Mm-hmm.
a number of the couples, because it's interesting to me. I mean, today, women cheat on guys and guys cheat on women. It's back and forth, right? But um, when the guy has been using porn or he's cheating on his wife, the call to us that is set up is, I'd say, 80% of the time it's from the wife. And so we'll take those calls and set up, but eventually we come back to the guy and we say, hey, it's interesting to us that you were the offender, yet your wife is the one trying to solve this problem for you.
Mm.
And it shouldn't be that way. You need to take responsibility for not only what you've done, but for the rescue, and ask God to come in and do something. And we'd like for you to be the one initiating this stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I think that women oftentimes are more attuned to the relationship, and they know when something's not right, and they do instigate that wanting to change things. But it's really important for us to know what is ours to do, because we cannot control or change the other person. And I love that prayer that says, Lord, help me to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that, I think, it brings a lot of balance into a relationship when you can realize what is in my control, what is not. Give it to God if I can't control it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to give you an opportunity. I know you have not only the book, you have the ministry, you also have a great podcast. I've listened to many episodes already. How can people get in touch with you if they would like to have more information?
Sure. Well, they can reach us at our website, which is savagemarriageministries.com. And our podcast is Savage Marriage with Phil and Priscilla. And so we spend time coaching people, and they will call in and we take them through. Many of the couples go through our Savage Marriage Study Guide, which is also available on Amazon. So if you go on Amazon and look under Savage Marriage, Phil and Priscilla, it'll pop up our book and our study guide. But we take many couples through that. And then we also do some conferences on the weekends, and we serve as a coach with them. And they were instrumental in our own recovery
9 years ago.
9 years ago. And but we've been coaching with them for about 7.5 years now. And so that's been really, really, really awesome. So if anybody would like to get in touch with us, they could certainly do that. They can book online appointments, and we're glad to talk to people.
Great. Well, I did want to also ask you about, since you're here, there was a Savage Marriage small group, I believe, that was mentioned on the website. How does that work?
Yeah, so there are a number of those going on, and we've given up trying to keep track of these, because once you launch these studies, they take kind of a life of their own. Although people do reach out to us and say, "Oh, I'm in a Savage Marriage small group," right? So people can lead their own group. They can go get our study guide, and there's leaders helps in there. There's some other stuff on our website about it, and sometimes we will actually dial into those groups on a Zoom and let them ask questions, or we will kick off a group, or we'll help them wind up a group like that. But there are 9 sessions to go through, but it might take people 9, 10, 11, 12, depending on how long they want to spend on each session to go through those. But those are really good, and they do hit some of these really hard areas dealing with wounds and fears and lies and things like that.
Wonderful. My husband and I lead groups in our church, and I was looking at that as maybe our next study. So I'll probably be in touch with you about that later.
That would be awesome, Marcy. And we've heard really good things about it. It's really tough, and even some of the coaches that we work with, they started using that, and they've told us it's tougher even for them, and they've been through their own story, because there's just so much to dig into. It's not a surface level type study. It's really digging down into the weeds.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Happy anniversary, 9 years.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
God bless you guys.
God bless you too. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.